The year's 2014, I just graduated from college and I went into possibly the lowest skilled creative job on the planet. I was essentially a glorified SD card reader. I was ingesting media for NASCAR in North Carolina, not really knowing where I wanted to take my creative career. And I get home one day and my wife slides a job description across the desk to me and says, "You need to apply for this job." A few months later, I am one of two people leading up the media production side of one of the largest additive manufacturing companies in the world, working with companies like Renault Formula One in Oxford, England, Emirates Airlines in Dubai, and working with celebrities like Jay Leno in Burbank, California. And it was my lack of skill and experience that forced me into being a student of the game. I was the type of guy that watched TV commercials with the false color overlay to see how the lighting fell off across skin tones. I studied ratios and documentaries and interviews with all of the top DPs and directors around the world. But still, I was in way over my head. And despite having the opportunity to travel the world doing what I loved, I was extremely impatient and wanted more. And it wasn't until I found out that the company that I was working for was also outsourcing video projects to external agencies. And one day, one of the invoices mistakenly landed in my inbox instead of my boss's. And I found out the company that I was working for was paying these agencies my annual salary for one video deliverable. And that accidental invoice was my breaking point into entrepreneurship. Now, for someone with zero business knowledge and experience at the time, I was basically in the Wild West. I was young, I was hungry, and seemingly had all of the time in the world to figure this shit out. So that's what I did. I worked basically every waking hour, sacrificing some of my younger years with my wife, trying to figure out this business thing by just burying my head in the sand and taking in as much information as possible. I was trying to understand where to find clients, how to make this thing profitable, how do I scale, how do I work on bigger and better jobs. All of these things that are seemingly obvious to me now, I had to figure that out from the ground up. And then on top of that, I had to figure out all of that while actually improving my skill set at doing the creative stuff of the business, the actual deliverable of the assets. Because if I'm honest, I'm no Roger Deakins. Now, if you don't want a life outside of business either, you can do all what I did too. And that's fine. There's different ways to learn different things. But that life wasn't for me. And the problem that I was facing is that I had no industry connections. I hadn't had the time or the networking chops to establish a network where I could pick their brain and learn from people who were ahead of me. It just didn't exist in my world. And you might be in the same situation there. Sometimes all you want is just a conversation and sit down with someone who has been there and done what you're trying to do. But for me, that wasn't an option. I did have a North Star. I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to create commercials that I would see on TV someday. And that was my North Star. That was my goal. So essentially what I did was just exhaust all of the resources that I had. Those usually came in the form of reading books and watching YouTube videos and just learning from people who were posting content at the time, which wasn't a huge amount of people. And you know the drill. You don't necessarily get poignant custom feedback from a YouTube video. You can get good information, but sometimes you need custom feedback on your particular situation. Now, 12 years later, I've built something that I'm actually extremely proud of. Just a little backstory, we did go through the whole wedding route and we worked on wedding videos and was struggling to charge $800 at the beginning. But that transition, we learned and we grew, and now we do the $500,000 commercials. We work with household brands, and I see the stuff that we do on TV. I've seemingly realized the goal that I set back in the day, when that's sometimes, you just have to sit back and acknowledge that you've done that, and that's nice. I'm not saying that we're the finished article and I've achieved the tip top of the industry. What I'm saying is that you don't necessarily need to do the blood, sweat, and tears approach that I did. There's an easier way. Now, over the years, we've continued to grow profitably year over year. And I've seen hundreds of production companies start and close in that time. And in speaking with these business owners, there's some clear consistency in what things happen and what bottlenecks appear that get these video businesses to go to breaking point. And for someone who actually went through the period of time where I was looking for advice, but I couldn't get what I needed, I've made it a point to open up those lines of communication. People seem to ask the same sorts of questions when it comes to running and scaling a video business. So I went ahead and built a system that maps those questions, and then that system has now become a tool. The reason this tool exists is so that you don't have to go through the struggles that I had to go through for the past 12 years in trying to figure out this entire business model. The tool helps you figure out what you should be focusing on, what's important to your business, and what's actually going to move the needle so that you can focus on spending time doing things in life that you enjoy outside of business. Imagine that. Imagine having the time to enjoy your life outside of the business that you've started, spending time with the family, working on projects that actually creatively fulfill you, and doing hobbies. Find those hobbies that you enjoy doing. Those are the things that you should be spending the time doing, not spending every waking hour like I did, trying to figure out how to run your business and make money. If you're curious, you can check it out below. It costs about the same as a Starbucks coffee and will help you gain clarity, insight, and direction into where you should be focusing your resources and time in your video business. Check it out below.